You know the exact moment. Someone asks a question in English, and instead of answering, your mind goes completely blank. You're frozen. That lag is a biological bottleneck. Behind the scenes, your brain is doing double the cognitive work required to hold a basic conversation. This diagram shows the four-step loop trapping most intermediate learners. First, you process the incoming English. Second, you translate it into your native language. Third, you formulate your response natively. And fourth, you translate that response back into English. Compare that exhausting loop to a fluent speaker's process. The entire sequence collapses into a direct two-point line: understand and respond. Mental exhaustion in a second language is the primary symptom of an inefficient neurological operating system. To understand how to fix this, we have to look at neuroplasticity. Imagine your brain's physical architecture as a vast, dense forest where your thoughts travel from point to point. Your native language is a smoothly paved, multi-lane highway cutting right through the middle. It offers zero friction. Trying to think directly in English requires you to step off the asphalt and bushwhack through thick underbrush where no trail exists. The human brain evolved to conserve energy. It will always route your thoughts onto the established highway, the translation loop, even if the overall detour takes longer. Spontaneous fluency requires you to deliberately abandon that comfortable highway. You have to force your brain to carve an entirely new physical pathway through the underbrush. The first step to carving this path is mental substitution. This means catching your mundane daily thoughts, like realizing you need more coffee, and actively forcing your brain to express them in English. To build neurological flexibility, you must push the brain to generate 2 or 3 different variations for that single thought, ensuring you have multiple routes to the same meaning. Once you master basic thoughts, you expand into a bilingual inner monologue. Instead of just naming objects, you narrate your actual opinions, reactions, and hypothetical plans in English. The most effective catalyst for this process is emotion. The brain processes strong feelings deep within its architecture. Tying English vocabulary to genuine joy or frustration acts as a biological accelerator. It's why people often remember swear words in foreign languages so easily. The emotion helps the language stick. For a new language to biologically take root, it must be tied to your authentic internal feelings, not just academic memorization. Carving the initial dirt trail isn't enough. A path only hardens into a reliable road when exposed to consistent, high-quality pressure. This curve visualizes the need for comprehensible input. If you consume English media that's too easy, the path experiences no friction. If it's too difficult, you hit system overload and the brain shuts down. You need the specific zone in the middle. We find that spot using the 70% rule. You must naturally understand about 70% of the vocabulary. This allows your brain to guess new words from context, maintaining the state of flow required to solidify the pathway. A highly effective way to maintain this flow is watching media with English subtitles, intentionally reading slightly ahead of the spoken dialogue to prime your brain for the incoming sounds. Applying this targeted, manageable friction is the biological mechanism that flattens a fragile dirt trail into heavy infrastructure. Passive listening prepares the terrain, but the neural pathway does not become permanent until your brain physically forces your body to walk it. One way to force this action is through shadowing. By mimicking a native speaker's exact rhythm and intonation in real time, you train your mouth's muscle memory to move without conscious effort. Another method is the self-talk narrative. You speak spontaneously out loud while performing automatic physical tasks, like washing the dishes. This decouples your language center from the part of your brain that overthinks. The biggest hurdle to this active output is psychological, the fear of making mistakes and sounding foolish. Mistakes are structural necessities. Tripping over words highlights the exact gaps in the pathway, signaling where the brain needs to lay down more connections. Without the physical act of speaking and the errors that come with it, the English pathway remains purely theoretical. Even with a well-built path, high-stress conversations will trigger mental blocks. Your brain spikes with anxiety and tries to route back to the native language highway. To prevent this retreat, deploy memorized filler phrases. Simply saying, "Let me think about that for a moment," buys your brain processing time without breaking the neural loop. If your brain gets stuck translating a sophisticated native thought, break the concept down. Simplify it into its most basic English components to keep your momentum. Managing conversational stress is a vital tactic to keep your brain locked on to the newly formed neurological route. Consistent daily practice for 15 to 30 minutes creates a measurable timeline of automaticity as the brain reinforces these connections through repetition. Around the 3-week mark, you experience the first faint signals, brief, unprompted moments where you suddenly catch yourself thinking directly in English. By 6 months of consistent repetition, the brain has carved the path deeply enough that English becomes a subconscious reflex. Fluency is a physical structure you build inside your own neural architecture through every repeated action and every corrected mistake.